Ferguson has finally settled down, the focus can finally shift toward the actual case, rather than the unrest that followed it. It's very easy to get caught up in the emotional aspects of it. A low-income, overwhelmingly black community doesn't take kindly to unarmed people being shot to death by the disproportionately white police force that thinks they're ground troops and tear gases the press, and releases irrelevant footage of crimes being committed as a way to dehumanize the deceased. The truth is, I don't have much faith in the justice system when it comes to police officers attacking or killing unarmed or even innocent people. I've left several links in the description box to news reports of several questionable homicides by law enforcement personnel from this year alone, including the acquittal of a state trooper who stomped on a man's head, a man who was handcuffed and laying on a floor, and, as it turned out, had nothing to do with the drug raid that the police were conducting. He was totally innocent. Fortunately, that man survived, but his attacker, the punk bitch in the uniform, not only got off, but he is still a cop. Of course, that's far from the worst. A few months ago, police in West Hollywood responded to a report of a man who had stabbed some people in his apartment. When they arrived, they shot his victims. One of them, a production assistant for the TV show Tosh.0, died. Honest mistake, right? I mean, what else were the police supposed to think when they responded to a hostage situation and they see frightened and bleeding men running toward them? I mean, it's very obvious that you're supposed to shoot and then ask questions. If there is anyone still alive to answer them, that is. We have some serious problems in this country. We have a lot of guns. We have some piss-poorly trained law enforcement, and we have some crazy attitudes when it comes to firearms and crime. This past week, there was a rally in St. Louis supporting Officer Darren Wilson, the cop who killed Michael Brown, and there was a very poignant quote from one of his supporters. If you do what the police tell you to, if you're not doing anything wrong, and if the cops ask you to do something, then you're not going to have nothing to worry about. Well, clearly that is just not always reality in this country, because we have some truly inept people in uniform, and a system that tends to cover for them. The thought, just the thought, that it is ever justifiable for a trained police officer, not just some person off the street, but a trained police officer, to shoot an unarmed person 6 times in any context is outrageous. And yet, we're actually having this discussion. I've never served in law enforcement, but I did serve in the military for the better part of a decade, and weapons training is mandatory. And I cannot imagine that law enforcement would be instructed to demobilize people by shooting them multiple times. Now, why are the black folks so pissed off? Well, because this is kind of just more of the same as far as history repeating itself, in which black people are summarily executed by white people and nobody gives a damn. And I am not disputing that. I mean, it is part of American history. We used to call it lynching. Practically since the beginning, a black male's life doesn't seem to have much value in this country. But this problem goes way beyond that. It's certainly not just black folks getting blown away. There is a sickness within the American subculture, this kink for guns and vengeance and death. This sickness dictates that people on the business end of a gun deserve to die, no matter what they have done. Nobody's gonna come right out and say it, but that's the attitude that permeates. It doesn't matter if they are unarmed, or if they're committing a petty crime, or if they are defending themselves, or even if they're doing nothing. It doesn't matter, because the shooter needs only to claim to be afraid. It's very hard to disprove that. And more to the point, people will believe it because they want to. They want to believe that an unarmed kid walking home from a convenience store, being chased by an armed busybody with a hero complex and a police record, somehow deserved to die for fighting back against his attacker. What difference does it make? It's not like this person mattered. He was no angel, therefore he deserved to die. So yeah, this cop shoots an unarmed young man, but the young man just ripped off some cigars. And so what if Wilson didn't know that at the time? Clearly Michael Brown had it coming. Let the medieval punishment fit the crime. Death, without due process, for blocking traffic, or for strong-armed robbery, or even a punch to the face if that even happened. I have actually heard the word karma used in context of the situation. It is truly disgusting how quickly people abdicate their morality, their value for human life, and the Constitution to feed this kink for blood in the guise of self-defense and law and order. It is sick. I've left several links in the description box to news reports of some questionable homicides by law enforcement personnel. I've left several links in the description box to I've left several links in the I've left several links in the description box to news reports of several. I've left several links in the description box to news reports of several. I've left several links in the description box below to news reports of several. Why did I say below? I've left several links in the